Hello everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Champions League podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides here with you to look ahead to Matchday 2 in the Champions League. Last week we were very pleased indeed. We picked two winners for our best bets of Matchday 1. So hopefully the guys are going to pick two more winners and also give you plenty of interesting angles from which to approach what looks like a very interesting match day. I've got, as ever, Ian Broadrick, aka Brothers from Betting Emporium, and Mark O'Haire from We Love Betting joining us on the programme today. Without further ado, let's kick off by addressing the first game we're going to talk about, and it's Manchester United against Leipzig. Of course, United with I'm going to say really unexpected win at the Parc des Princes on match day 1. Don't think any of us really necessarily saw that coming, particularly not Brothers, who always seems to back PSG in any way, shape or form possible. But they were comfortably beaten. Comfortably beaten. Manchester United did well to win at the Parc des Princes on match day 1. Let's take a look at the prices and see what they are available at. You can get Manchester United to win at home against RB Leipzig at 2.32. The Germans, who also got off to a winning start on match day 1, are available at 3.34, and the draw 3.52. You can get Manchester United on the Asian handicap minus 0.25 at 1.98. You can get Leipzig with a plus quarter goal start at 1.95, and the goal line over 2.75 goals is at 2.04. Obviously, we are a podcast, but we are live on Matchbook social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So if you are joining us on social media live, feel free to send us a question or just get involved in the program. We like hearing your thoughts. Mark, you picked Leipzig to win on match day 1. That was your best bet of the week. It came through pretty comfortably. What's your thoughts on their visit to Old Trafford?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, Phil. Hard to get a read on this Man United team at the moment. Appalling in the opening few weeks, possibly due to a shortened off-season, a disrupted pre-season. They came to the fore against Newcastle, put in that big performance at PSG as well, which we know they can do. They are capable of those big performances away at elite teams. We've seen it last season. And then at the weekend against Chelsea, what an atrocious and desperately disappointing game that was. Like, absolutely appalling. I was kind of glad to have Dortmund Schalke on at the same time because I didn't have to put all my attention onto it. But Solskjaer reverted to the same 11 that beat Newcastle. So I'm really interested to see what sort of tactical setup he goes with here, whether he reverts to the PSG game or kind of continues with the faith in that same 11 from the weekend as well. But I kind of want to know the team news really before I make a major play on this. And I think the way United set up is how I'm going to approach it really. Are they going to contain and counter? It's not normally the way at Old Trafford, but it seems to be their best way when they're meeting these kind of elite European teams. And as for Leipzig, they did beat Başakşehir, 2 early goals, put them in a strong position, but they were put under pressure in that game. They weren't overly convincing for my eyes across the 90 minutes. A few nervous moments, didn't create a bucket load of chances. And then the performance on Saturday as well, having to come from a goal behind against Hertha Berlin, Sabitzer coming off the bench to score a penalty against 10 men as well. So they did obviously make a few changes like most of these teams in the Champions League did at the weekend. Justin Kluivert, Alexander Sørloth getting first starts. But it was quite a laboured performance, and unconvincing is probably harsh, but you look at them, they're top of the Bundesliga. Their schedule has been quite kind as well. They've played 3 of the bottom 4 in Germany so far. Only one toughish game, which was against Leverkusen, a 1-1 draw. But I do like Leipzig, unbeaten away in last season's Champions League. Were favourites away at Spurs in the knockout rounds, if you remember. But Spurs obviously going through a terrible run at that time and without Son and Kane. So that kind of balances things out. So the odds here suggest that these two teams are probably around the same level. But I kind of look towards the two teams right now at the price. Leipzig at 3.35 at Old Trafford. They are a danger to United in my eyes. United haven't performed at Old Trafford at all this season. So right now, I probably edge towards Leipzig plus a quarter goal at almost even money. Gets the draw on our side as well. I know it's early days, but those match day 1 results in terms of PSG losing and United winning, I wonder whether there'll be an approach from United of we just can't lose this game. We're in a great position after picking up 3 points against the group favourites. Let's not kind of blow it now against Leipzig, who are our biggest dangers. So I have a feeling both teams might want to play on the counter-attack here, but I'd prefer to see the 11s before making a really strong position on this. But right now, Leipzig plus a quarter.
Okay, so you're favouring Leipzig. I mean, just having a look at that, the initial feeling that I got was to maybe back goals over 2.75 looked relatively tantalising to me. But if Mark is suggesting that both sides might sit back, then it might be not the play. What are you suggesting, brothers?
I think, to be honest with you, Mark and I hadn't discussed this beforehand, and I would echo pretty much everything he said, which is unusual for us. I think he's 100% right. I think Leipzig will try to do to Man United what Man United did to PSG, which is to hit them on the break with pace. You know, we know they've got Nkunku. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if Hwang Hee-chan got his first start of the season in this game to try and utilise his pace on the break as well. But this is a Leipzig side that's got a ton of experience and a ton of sort of exciting attacking talent going forwards. But also, you can't overlook the fact that they're likely to be able to bring back Konate, if not for this game, then very soon, to form a partnership with Upamecano at the back, which is a huge difference for them defensively. Upamecano has rightly had a lot of plaudits for his performances in the last 12 months. But Konate, for me, is actually the better player. And it's one of those players that, because he's not been playing very much, he's kind of been forgotten in all of it. But his partnership with Upamecano is very, very solid and very difficult to deal with from an attacking perspective for the other side. So I think, looking at it, I agree with Mark. I think everything he said is essentially we need to see the teams. We need to see how things play out. I'm definitely in the sort of Leipzig plus a quarter type camp at the moment. I think Manchester United showed at the weekend with Chelsea that when a team sits back, they do struggle to break sides down. Although I thought Cavani coming on looked exceptionally sharp for someone who's not played for a long time. And I think his movement and his experience is something that's going to bring Man United something different. And especially if, we see Telles playing potentially and his ability to whip in crosses, it's an additional dimension to the Man United attack that we haven't really seen so far. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if that brings an additional element of unpredictability that they needed, because at the moment, essentially all they've got is pace on the break. So, long way of saying I don't really know, but I think I agree with Mark. I think it's one of those games which is very hard to weigh up until you see the teams, and even frankly, when you see the teams, it's going to be difficult to weigh up because we just need to see the way that the teams approach it. So.
Okay. Mark suggesting that Leipzig might be worthy of some consideration with the plus quarter goal start. When you're talking about Cavani there, you're talking about Telles, talking about the pace they have on the break for Manchester United, I don't know. I've got a feeling that my suggestion of over 2.75 goals might not be a bad idea. But hey, listen, I'm not the tipster here. I'm just here to ask you guys the question. Let's move on and talk about the biggest game on match day 2. Don't think there's too many questions about that. It's Juventus against Barcelona. Juve really don't lose many games at home at all, particularly not in Europe. They're at 2.71 to win. Barcelona at the same price. The draw is offered at 3.46. You can get Juve at 1.91 on the plus 0.0 Asian handicap, essentially draw no bet. You can get Barcelona at 1.99 for draw no bet. And the goal line over 2.75 at 1.97, under 2.75 at 1.9. Of course, Barcelona coming into this game off the back of losing El Clasico against Real Madrid at the weekend and losing it in relatively convincing style. I thought Real Madrid were considerably better than them particularly in the second half. Barcelona created chances, and it's a young, exciting Barcelona side, isn't it? Had three teenagers in the starting 11 against Real Madrid, 2 17-year-olds and a 19-year-old. Let's see what kind of starting 11 Ronald Koeman goes with this week. They will be without their most experienced player in Europe, not Lionel Messi, but Gerard Piqué, who is suspended for this game. That could be a real big loss. It means probably Uruguayan youngster Ronald Araujo playing alongside Clement Lenglet in the heart of defence, up against a Juve side who haven't started Serie A as they might have thought they would. I think it's only 9 points from 5 games, isn't it? They drew 1-1 at the weekend as well. How do we see this game going, brothers?
Again, it's a difficult one to weigh up. Unfortunately, there's some team news that we're waiting on. Cristiano Ronaldo is possibly going to be available for Juventus, which is clearly an enormous factor in whatever you're going to do with this game. He needs to demonstrate that he's COVID-free up 24 hours before kickoff. And it seems to be suggested that that's going to be the case. So, if Ronaldo plays, we can expect to see Ronaldo, probably Morata, quite possibly Dybala, or certainly one of Dybala and Kulusevski to play in a front three, which offers a lot of attacking power. That Barcelona are going to struggle to deal with without PK. I mean, we've already seen Barcelona this season are not particularly good defensively anyway. But the Real Madrid game, they were just failing to do some very basic things like following runners and stuff like that. So I think the Barcelona defence are going to struggle with Juventus in this match. But then on the flip side, you've also then got a Juventus team that could well be without Bonucci. We're waiting for confirmation of what his injury prognosis is from the weekend when he had to come off. They'll be without Chiellini. Delite's out as well. So you're looking at a Juventus backline that might have Demiral in it and whoever else they can cobble together. I mean, it might be they even have to go to a back four for this game, just simply because they don't have enough defenders, and play Danilo as a centre-back with Demiral and go to a 4-4-2. So, again, we don't need anyone to tell us that Barcelona have got the genius of Messi. They've got the ability and these exciting young players like Fati. Griezmann clearly is still off his game and may have...
He hasn't played the last two matches, Antoine Griezmann.
He hasn't started. Certainly since his comments on international break about Koeman, that probably didn't curry much favour with the manager when he was criticising him again for not playing him in the right position. But, Coutinho's injured as well for this game, but they've got Dembele. Pedri obviously has come in and has looked very exciting. So I think what we've got here is two teams who are sort of decimated at the back and are looking, potentially very sort of fragile at the back, and two teams who've got very, very, very strong attacks, led by two of the greatest players that have ever played the game. So, we're looking for team news. My sort of instinct on this game is the safest play is possibly going to be goals, given the importance of the game for both teams. Barcelona have to bounce back and give a performance after losing the Clásico. Juventus know the importance of winning their home games and are brilliant at home. So, my view is that Juventus are likely to be too strong for Barcelona. I like them with draw no bet, given Barcelona's away record in the Champions League over the last few years, and I like goals. But the team news again is going to be very important for this game.
I'm glad you mentioned that Champions League away record for Barcelona. It's something that I think we've spoken about many, many, many times on the programme over the last couple of seasons, Mark. But it is worth just reminding people how poor generally Barcelona have been on their travels in this competition. I mean, I look at that away record. Yes, there are lots of injuries for both sides. I look at that away record, I look at Juventus's home record, I look at how unconvincing Barcelona have been at times this season, and the price for a Juventus win, or if you want to be more cautious, draw no bet, really appeals.
Yeah, I have to admit I was surprised when I saw this as a pick'em game, and that's surely down to Ronaldo's potential absence. If he's playing, Juventus goal favourites here, no doubt. So if Broadrick is right and there is a potential for Ronaldo to play in this game, then yeah, I'd absolutely be with Juventus plus a 0 start on the Asians. I've got the two bets exactly the same as Broadrick has pointed out here. Juventus, siding with Juventus, and over 2.5 goals. But last night, Sunday night, Juventus drew at home to Verona. They weren't very good at all. They've now only won one Serie A game, actually, in terms of playing the matches. The 3-0 they were gifted against Napoli, but that was the opener against Sampdoria. They drew with Roma, drew with Crotone, where obviously a red card went against them. They played a lot of the game, down to 10 men. And then the Verona game, where they've just, they've not really convinced whatsoever. Quite alarmingly, quite defensively poor as well. And as Broadrick says, Bonucci went off, suspected thigh problem. I expect him to be missing. Chiellini's out, Delict's out as well. Alex Sandro's out as well. They are depleted at the back, but then they've only lost 2 group stage games at home this century. And you mentioned Barcelona's away record. It's 5 wins and 14 now. They've actually only scored 2 goals or more in 4 of their last 17 away Champions League games. You mentioned as well, PK suspended. Ter Stegen's missing as well, who probably was their second best player last season, if we're being brutal about things. Busquets' is turning circle non-existent these days, got completely kind of cut to ribbons by the Madrid midfield at the weekend. And even that game against Ferencváros, the Hungarians could have scored 2 or 3 goals in that first half. PK and Longley were just dragged out of position so often. They're kind of making rash and poor decision making. It's just poor all round. Barcelona defensively, they conceded 9 shots on target against Madrid. They could moan about the penalty, which was contentious, but at the end of the day, they didn't react very well. You look at their games individually. They have been moaning. Yes. But not too surprising. But they were second best at home against Sevilla. They lost and were bullied at Getafe as well. So there's very little you can get excited about from this Barcelona team at the moment. But at the same time, I have my issues with Juventus too. Pirlo's been switching systems quite regularly, 4-2-3-1, 3-4-3, 4-4-2. He went away to Kiev, and I think he had about 6 or 7 attack-minded players in that team and very few defenders, but it worked. If Ronaldo does play, as Rod has said, they've got a glut of attacking players there who can make a massive impact. Dybala came in off the bench this weekend to start for the first time this season. Kulusevski's been really good. Morata's fitted straight in as well. So I think goals are probably the angle as well. I'd take over 2.5 goals, but Juventus on a scratch start, presuming Ronaldo starts. But actually, even if he's not there, I'd still favour Juventus at that price, because I'm really surprised they're not firm favourites, but not at least solid favourites here. Because I'm really surprised it's a pick'em, to be honest.
Yes, well, it is at the moment, obviously, all odds correct at the time of recording. Let's see how the market moves between now and kickoff in Turin. Let's focus on another game, and it involves one of the sides that we love to talk about, Atalanta, and I think we love to watch them as well. We've got a WhatsApp group. I'll let you in, little listeners, onto a little secret. We've got a WhatsApp group, and I'm not going to say exactly what Brothers said he'd rather do than back unders in an Atalanta game. This is a family show. But it sounded very painful and required quite a lot of physical flexibility as well. So I think we're going to go for goals in this. But here we go. Here's the prices. Atalanta at 1.84 to win at home to Ajax, who are 4.05 to claim 3 points in Bergamo. The draw is at 4.15. You can get Atalanta on the Asian handicap at minus 0.5. We 1.87. Sorry, I can't read or talk. Ajax with a plus half goal start at 2.06. And the goals over 3.5 is at 1.89. Under 3.5 is at 2.06. Just to give you an idea of what we're expecting. Brothers, you backing unders in this game?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think where the first 2 games were fairly unpredictable, I think this game, thankfully, is going to be predictable. We know what Atalanta are all about. My one slight reservation before I sort of remortgage the house and get onto goals is that Papu Gomez played 90 minutes at the weekend, and he's not getting any younger, and he is still the sort of beating heartbeat of this team. But you look at Atalanta and you know what you're going to get. They're going to attack like lunatics. They're going to let in goals at the other end. I think Ajax were exceptionally unlucky in their game against Liverpool not to score. They showed plenty of quality going forwards, and we know that they're a good side. And I actually expect Ajax to score in this game at least once, to be honest, especially after, I'm sure Mark will give you the stats because he's more of a stats guy than me, but their 13-0 win at the weekend against BVB was slightly pretty extraordinary. But I think, if you look at Atalanta, even in their last 10 games, and every single game has gone over 3.5 goals. And I'm saying their last 10 games because I'm deliberately including 4 friendlies in that, where they played lower league Italian sides, Serie B, Serie C sides, and they were conceding in every game in that as well, pre-season, but just scoring loads. So they've kept 1 clean sheet this season against Midtjylland in the last round when they scored 4. They were 3-0 up at half time. They took their foot off the gas and they could have scored more. To be fair, Midtjylland had chances in that game as well, which isn't surprising. So keeping things nice and easy, I'm going to go with goals. I do like Atalanta to win it as well. I think they've got a lot of quality. We talked about the fact that, before the whole thing started, that we like them as dark horses to have a deep run in the competition. And I think they've got everything you need to do that. You know, they are a very, very dangerous team. I'm not worried about their Serie A form. I think we've seen it before in the competition where sides sometimes struggle in domestic leagues when the Champions League group stage is on. They rested players again at the weekend. You know, they brought on Housens and Hatterberg at half-time as well as Zapata. So they've had half a game rather than 90 minutes. But I think at this stage, when teams are still relatively fresh at the beginning of the season and there's no real tiredness issues, for me, it's goals all the way because, you know, that's what they do.
It's worth reminding ourselves this is just Atalanta's second season in the Champions League. It means they've only ever played 5 home games in the competition, of which they've only won 2, Mark, against Dinamo Zagreb and Valencia. But you fancy them to add to that tally of home wins?
Yeah, I'd echo everything Brod has said there again about a high-scoring game, but I do like Atalanta. You mentioned the prices there, minus half a goal at 1.88 to win this game. That's very appealing to me. One thing that's probably not been noticed is last season Atalanta had to play their home games at San Siro. Their own stadium wasn't up to UEFA standards, but they are playing at home in Bergamo for this game. So it's basically their first Champions League group game at their real home. So it's quite a historic moment for them. I know the league defeats will probably be frowned upon by punters, but I think there were allowances for that. The Napoli game, for example, their players, away with international duty, whereas the Napoli squad were basically in their bubble, unable to leave Naples, so they were almost having their own sort of mini pre-season camp going into that game. And then Gasperini made 7 changes at the weekend for the Napoli match, where they did generate over 2 expected goals anyway, despite losing. So in the Champions League, they were ruthless, they were efficient, typical Atalanta, created loads of chances in Denmark. That was a tricky opening game, in fairness, against the Danish team, who are reasonably well set up, very prolific from set pieces, but they dealt with them very well. And also, just surprising, really, last weekend against Midtjylland, they drifted in the market despite no obvious team news going off on the Wednesday. Played basically a first choice 11, but they drifted throughout the day and no real reason for it. And they hosed up, so no real reason to me to sort of move away from them. I know De Roon is a major doubt for this, and Gasperini really likes him in the big games. But I think that's probably another tip of the hat for Brothers' goals bet. Malinowski might be coming in for the team for that one. Ilicic is working his way back to match fitness as well. Started again at the weekend. He may be included, may not be. And then you look at Ajax. Everyone all looked at that 13-0, where the stats were quite incredible, really. 8 goals in 24 second half minutes, 23 shots on target. The goalkeeper even made 10 saves in that game as well, so it could have been bigger. And the 19-year-old Traore scoring 5 and assisting 3. If you get a chance to look at the XG shot map, it's quite amusing, actually. It's something you'll never see again. But there might be a little bit of an overreaction there to Ajax, in my eyes anyway. Their attack had actually struggled to fire for most of the season before that Liverpool game, where they were quite lively. But the Dutch press was sort of talking about how Ten Hag needs to start moving Tadic into the number 10 role and having Huntelaar maybe leading the line. But Anthony is fit, which is a bonus. Mohamed Kudus is missing. So I've seen Ajax a couple of times now this season. They'd be lively in stages, but they're definitely not the same team of 2 years ago when they reached the semi-finals. And I think they could be quite vulnerable here to an Atalanta team with a lot to prove, not just for their first home game, but also based on those Serie A performances as well. So, I do like them at the prices. I thought they'd be closer to 1.75, 1.7-ish. So I'm happy to go. I think if it is over 3.5 goals, I think Atalanta come out on top of it. So 1.88 to beat a half-goal star is fair enough to me.
If it's over 3.5 goals, it's not if. It's not. Surely it's not a question of if. It looks nailed on. But hey, Brothers did also say on the WhatsApp group that they are due an unders as well at some point. So let's just hope, fingers crossed, it's not this week. Before we go, final game for us to discuss is Real Madrid's trip to Germany to take on Borussia Mönchengladbach. You can get the hosts at 3.86. Real Madrid, of course, 13-time winners of the competition at 1.90. The draw at 4.25. On the Asian handicap, Borussia Mönchengladbach with a half-goal start at 2.02. Real Madrid minus a half goal at 1.9. And the goal line over 3.25 is at 2.07, under 3.25 is at 1.83. Real Madrid, obviously, coming into this game off the back of beating Barcelona at the weekend, a much needed victory for Zinedine Zidane's side, who prior to that had lost at home to newly promoted Cadiz in a really poor performance, and then put in an even worse performance at home to Shakhtar Donetsk on match day 1 when they were 3-0 down at half-time. They rallied a little bit in the second half to pull it back to 3-2, but they still lost their first game, and they are in a difficult situation in the group. Fortunately for them, Inter Milan and Borussia Mönchengladbach managed to draw in the other group game on match day 1, which means they're not potentially in as bad a situation as they would have been had one of those sides won. But Real Madrid know that they are under a little bit of pressure. Having said that, they go into the game off the back of that Clasico win and a little bit of pressure relieved. In terms of team news, Eden Hazard is in the squad for this game. Whether or not he features at all or from the start remains to be seen, but he hasn't played at all for Real Madrid this season, hasn't featured since August. They don't have any right backs at all. First choice right back Dani Carvajal is out. Second choice right back Alvaro Odriozola is out. The man who replaced both of them in the Clasico, Nacho Fernandez, got injured in the Clasico, so he's out as well. Could be that makeshift winger Lucas Vazquez slots in at right back, as he did to good effect in the Clasico. And they've also called up youngster Sergio Santos from the B team. Whether or not he features remains to be seen. I look at this game, I see goals. Whether it's over 3.25, I'm not sure. Borussia has scored in every home game, or Borussia Mönchengladbach has scored in every home game they've ever played in the Champions League. Granted, it's only 8, including qualifiers, but they have still scored in every home game. Mark, are we feeling goals in this one?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, when Gladbach are involved, there's always goals. It tends to be. And Real Madrid, as we've seen before the Clasico, defensively haven't been exactly on their game. But I thought they did come to the party in Barcelona. Looked very good. Looked reasonably solid at times. I think Sergio Ramos's inclusion in the team makes such a difference. His leadership, his organisation, just his attitude, I think, as well. He went off in that game against Cadiz, missing against Shakhtar as well when performances were appalling. So, that victory will have lifted spirits, improved the mood around Madrid, no end. But I wonder if there's a bit of recency bias as well creeping in as well, because they were poor against Levante before the international break. And have laboured going forward for quite some time as well. So, kind of stealing your stat from last week, Phil, but I think they've scored over 2.5 goals now in just 4 of 24 games across all competitions, which goes back quite a long way. Benzema's looked isolated too often. And then you kind of look to who else is going to be creating and being consistent going forward.
It's supposed to be Hazard. But he hasn't featured.
Exactly. And he's not going to be 100% for this if he is involved. So, again, you look at right backs, you mentioned it, all the right backs missing. I wonder whether Mendy might move across or Marcelo move across and the other one play left back as well. We don't know. But Courtois has been Madrid's best player of the season up until the Clasico as well. So I guess that's another kind of tick in the box to a goal-heavy game. But I just looked at the prices. Madrid odds on for the win this game away in Gladbach. They were shorter for the trip to Betis earlier in the season. Inter were the same price actually when hosting Gladbach. And that kind of made me wonder. Madrid were only 8-11 to win the group, so not a huge amount of difference between Madrid and Inter. But Madrid are the same price to win at Gladbach as Inter were at home to Gladbach. So, yeah, something not quite adding up there for me. Gladbach weren't great at Inter, it must be said. Didn't do anything really for an hour, despite pinching a 2-2 draw. Marco Rosa actually went with a really attacking lineup with Player and Bolo and Thuram starting. But they just didn't really cut open Inter at all until the last sort of half hour. And their own defensive flaws were kind of quite disappointing as well. But Inter dominated the expected goals in that game, dominated goal-scoring chances. And then you look at Gladbach at the weekend, Marco Rosa arrested Thuram and Player. They only won 3-2 at Mainz. Deserved to win in fairness, but it wasn't the most convincing of displays. But I don't know, there's something about Gladbach at home. They tend to raise their game when the big teams come. Bayern Munich will tell you about that. They always give Bayern a massive game in the Bundesliga at Borussia Park. So I just wonder whether there's potential to keep them on side as well. Plus a 3/4 goal start on a Asian handicap, 1.83-ish. You're only losing half your stake if Madrid win by 1 goal. That's quite appealing to me. The goal line is probably where I thought it would be. So I wonder whether Brothers has got anything there. But Madrid don't really convince me as an odds-on shot at the moment away at Gladbach.
Brothers?
Again, it's a dull show today because we're disagreeing with each other. But I think Mark's covered the points very clearly. I think the difficulty with Real Madrid is not knowing which Real Madrid you're going to get. Are you going to get the Real Madrid that was really good and solid at the weekend against Barcelona, or are you going to get the Real Madrid that's been poor for most of the season? I think there's a good chance that the safest play in this game is goals. Borussia have scored and conceded in their last 5. They are a team that enables the opposition to have possession and to have dangerous sort of positions going forward. So, the way that Marco Rose is always set up is in a very attacking sense. Even from his Salzburg days, he's had that attacking philosophy, which is the modern way of approaching things, and very exciting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Hazard. I can't imagine he'll do anything more than come on for 20 minutes, if at all.
Yeah.
But I think that Real Madrid have got some issues at the back themselves, as you say, with the right back position. Ramos is a very important player for them, and he provides leadership. But it's also worth noting that he's a complete lunatic and is just as likely to get a red card as anything else. So I think it's one of those games that I'm not going to get heavily invested in. I think if you want my safest approach, it would be to look at possibly over 3. I mean, God blimey, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but over 3 goals rather than the sort of where the line is. I would take a slightly lower line and take over 3 at sort of anything over 1.8. I think that would be the way to approach it. But I'm not going to be investing greatly in this game. I think it's sit back and watch type affair.
You can get over 3 at 1.82, so that might be of potential interest. He hasn't been sent off for a while, Sergio Ramos. Certainly not this season. Anyway, he was also Real Madrid's second top scorer last season as well, with 13 goals in all competitions. So yeah, he's very important in all aspects. All right, before we get your best bets, let's just make a little resume of our potential selections so far. Our best bets for the Leipzig game, Leipzig travelling to Manchester United. Have a look at Leipzig with a 1/4 goal start for Juventus against Barcelona. Potentially have a look at Juventus draw no bet and over 2.5 goals in that game. Atalanta, you know the drill. Over 3.5 goals, obviously, and also the price for Atalanta to win as well doesn't look too shabby at all. And in the Real Madrid game at Borussia Mönchengladbach, we're not 1,000,000% convinced, but potentially over 3 goals might be of interest. So those are our sort of gut feeling shots. But what are the best bets of the week for Matchday 2 in the Champions League? Last week we had 2 winners out of 2. We want to do it again. So best bets of the week for Matchday 2 in the Champions League. Start with you, brothers. Your best bet.
Atalanta versus Ajax over 3.5 goals.
You're really, really going against the grain on that one. Okay, sure. I agree with that. That's also my best bet of the week. Mark, what's your best bet of the week, Matchday 2?
Yeah, Atalanta to beat Ajax in the same game. I've given another nod of approval at over 3.5 goals, but I think Atalanta to win the game at 1.88. If the name wasn't Atalanta, they wouldn't be 1.88 to win that game.
Okay, that's right. And what about Gladbach against Real Madrid? Gladbach at plus 0.75. Could that be of interest?
Yeah, I think it's a play. I'd rather be backing that than Real Madrid to win at odds on quotes. Just knowing that we lose only half our stake if Madrid win by 1 goal. So yeah, that'd be my way of playing that one.
Good. There we go. That's it for this week's edition of the Matchbook Champions League podcast. Hope you've enjoyed listening or watching wherever you've joined us. We're back next week on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. And of course, if you're listening to us, you can listen to us wherever on your preferred podcasting app. Enjoy the matches. We'll see you next week. Adios.